Coogs house, the number one center in America, Arafan Diane, just committed to the Houston Cougars, and Calvin Sampson got their big man.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougars, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, and whether you're a Houston fan or just a hit game step by, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen after a gigantic commitment. And Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. This is a bonus episode coming out. Arafan has committed to Houston. We'll talk some about him and his commitment and what it means for the Houston Cougars. Briefly, we'll probably hit more on this throughout the week. But Arafan Diane is the number one ranked center in the country. He is number one center composite, number one center in 24/7, number one center on three, all the different places. He's the top dog. So what makes him the top guy? Well, it's 7'1", 295 pounds, 295 pounds. He's truly a matchup nightmare because he's actually also a finesse guy. He's got tremendous ball handling skills and shot making ability inside that like 10-foot radius of the basket. Crafty, clever, sees the floor well, long arms, good grip on the basketball. Just hard to cover and a giant. And so you get guys big enough to try and get out there and muscle with him. They can't keep up with the ball skills and the finesse, right? You got guys that can kind of keep up athletically. He's going to bully them. He does both things so well on the offense side of the basketball. This guy's truly at 7'1", 7'4" wingspan, again, the frame that's flirting with 300 pounds, just a monstrous force inside on offense. He comes originally from Guinea, where he played for their U19 team, U18 teams. And he frankly also, I think, played in Canada for them. Anyway, international guy that ends up at Iowa United. I want to get to Iowa United and that circuity kind of things in a second. But internationally, he's played against Team USA. He's played against the top kids, he's played against the top guys, and had his way with so many of them. It's not that Guinea's known for having a tremendous basketball program or anything like that, but it does feel like the kind of a program where one guy can really shine. Right now, as far as his time at Iowa United is I want to stress an athletically centered kind of program, and I don't mean this to say it diminishes. It is not like the big links or in Texas you got Dynamic and Faith Family and those cats or whatever. It's not like that. It is much more somewhere in between that and the traditional prep school kind of route. And he's been there developing his game, getting high-level coaching, playing on a national level circuit, a really great balance for a guy. The reason he came to the States to play his high school basketball. He also caught the eye of Sampson and folks. And Sampson had been in on this guy for a minute now. They went and visited him in Iowa last spring. During that visit period, he visited Houston unofficially and then ultimately visited Houston officially as well. Did all kinds of back and forth, really strong connection built up with the staff here at Houston. And I think that connection is ultimately what led to this. He gave Houston a first unofficial visit, went through a series of official visits, and then gave Houston his last official visit when he came the same weekend as Akenna Lozier and Caleb Holt, two other big-time prospects that have Houston. And pay attention to the 2026 class. So he gives Houston the first word and the last word, and ultimately it sounds like fell in love with the staff. As a big guy, he's going to get a lot of coaching from Casey Beard, which is somewhat ironic, I should point out, because he's like the most diminutive guy on the staff. And I don't mean that like a super slight. He's not like a little person. He's just not as big as like Hollis was a pro player. Kellen was a college player. Like he's just not as big as those guys, but he works with these big guys. Now, I think that the truth is that relationship with the staff is going to be important because Arfan is a sure thing NBA guy, right? Like it would be things would have to go wrong for him not to be a pro. However, I don't know that he's a one and done. I don't think he's a one and done because, truthfully, I think that at 7'1", close to 300 pounds, he's probably going to be more suited for the pro game at closer to 280, 275 pounds. I think that between Beard, Sampson, Bishop, John Houston, this guy's going to see his body transform into a like high fueled machine. You're also going to see like all the things we talk about his offensive game. He's a strong defender at the highest high school levels, but at the high school levels, because he's a giant and he knows basketball. When you factor in the athleticism and then the kind of defensive intensity he's going to get focused on at Houston, this guy could be an all-world pro. It just might take more than a year to do it. And it does not sound like, and he does not have many interviews out online. It's hard to get in touch with his camp necessarily, but there's a couple of key players in the camp to talk to. It does not sound like it's got to be a one and done kind of thing. The bigger thing is about getting developed and working towards a strong pro career. Now, obviously, I was going to turn down the one and done thing, obviously, right? But I say all of that to say that the development program at Houston may just be the perfect fit for turning this guy into a pro. And that feels like ultimately why he picked the Cougs. Now, I also think it's worth pointing out from a Samsonian perspective, he has said this a lot of times that they like to recruit guys that are good on offense and build up their defense because they're going to coach the defense and then the offense can come whenever it comes. And so if they've got guys that are naturally talented offensively, that's great. He's been called at different points, various versions of the African or the Guinean Jokic. He has that kind of playmaking ability as an offensive hub. We haven't seen a whole lot of years where Sampson has a true pass playmaking kind of power to kind of center, really. I guess at the power forward spot, Jawan Robertson a little bit in 2023-4, but you also Jamal Shead at point guard. And Houston will always have good guards, but how they work in Djiani and how Arfan is like the hub of that offense will be fascinating to see. It'll also be fascinating to see, the same way you saw them go to Roberts for the left hook to start the games, and they're gone to JoJo for the right hook to start some of these games. Like Arfan's got more options in the bag than that, right? So where do they go with to quote start the game, so to speak, will be an interesting play. Now, it sounds like this commitment may have happened a while back, but he wanted to announce it on his birthday and a little bit more of a ceremonial kind of deal up there at Iowa United, and excited for him to get that done. Excited for him to get to be a Houston Cougar. But this thing has been building as Houston builds off of a incredible, at one point top in the country and one of the best in school history 2025 class. It looks at 2026, putting a cornerstone down like Arafan Diane is so important because truthfully, you're not just getting a good center, you're getting the best center, the hardest position to recruit in the sport, and you're getting the best player at it in the world, truthfully, right? That's a big deal. Now, how he fits in with the team, the roster, other recruits, all of that remains to be seen. And we're going to break all those kinds of things down over at Locked on Cougs on a more traditional, full scale kind of episode. I heard about this. Want to get this out here. Want to get this ready for you because I'm too excited to let it go by, and I'm ready to talk to you about it as soon as it happens. So, Locked on Cougs, breaking down all things recruiting and more. Hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. Locked on Cougs, primarily Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team and now Arfan Diane's team every single day. Go Cougs.